Okay. So I'm just going to work through a few things that you are going to do with just about every project and go through how to organize data, how to move it around, and how to troubleshoot issues you might run into in that process. So to get started, I'm going to download a couple layers from this website. It doesn't really matter, but let's do reserves. And for now, I'm just going to stick it in my downloads folder. And sea level rise. We'll do exposure area, see if any reserves are overlapped with potential sea level rise. So I have those two folders being downloaded. Before I extract them, I want to make another folder for my new project. So for me, I'm putting everything from this class into this Geology 480 folder. And I have this practice folder here just for today. But for you guys, it might be lab 1, lab 2, whatever project you're working on, make sure the title's clear. Really with everything, the clearer your titles and names are, the easier your life is going to be. And then I'm going to make a new folder that I'm going to put these shapefiles into. I'm just going to label that data. So now that I have that folder, I'm going to go back to my downloads, right click and hit extract all, and then browse to that folder I just made. So it actually knew where it was already, which is really nice. Sometimes you might have to browse to it. Just select that and hit extract. And there it is. I'm going to do it one more time for my sea level rise layer. So again, browse to my data folder, select it, and hit extract. So now I have all these nice shape files in one folder that I can access when I'm working on my project. Say you have all this data and you realize, oh, I don't actually want to use it for lab 1, I want to use it for lab 3. You wouldn't want to just copy and paste an individual shapefile because you need all of these associated files for like metadata, spatial reference data. There's a lot of files associated with one shapefile, and if you separate them, it's going to become corrupted and you won't be able to use it. So you can either shift click and select all of them and move them around that way. But the way I recommend, just to make sure nothing gets lost, is to just move around the whole folder. So say I want to move this to lab 1, so I can use this data when working on that lab. Just move the whole folder and access it that way. I didn't successfully move it. There we go. Now it's in here. So I'm going to move it back to my practice folder, which I also accidentally moved, it looks like. Yep. There we go. So now it's back in here, and you're able to access that data when working on your project. So you can sort of access data from different points by creating folder connections, but it's easy to lose stuff when you export it. So say you have most of your data in this folder and you export that whole folder for someone. But if you have data coming from another location, you're going to not have that information for the person who's opening your exported file. So the more you can keep things in one place and coming from the same location, the better. So let's open a project now to use the data we just downloaded. Oh yeah, Avalon, yes, you could copy and paste the whole folder. So if you wanted to,
cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, that's definitely an option. So I'm going to make a project. I'll name it practice. And as a general rule of thumb, it's going to be best to put your project file in the same folder as your data folder is located. So in this case, I want to save it to my practice folder because that's the same place where my data folder is. And when you're thinking about whether or not you want to make a new folder for this project, think about whether or not you have the data you need yet. So say I hadn't downloaded that data yet, and I still needed to make a folder for my project. That would be an instance where it would be good to make a new folder for this project. But because I already have a folder made and I already have my data, it's okay to just make my project file, save it to the folder I already have made. So now, when you go to your folders over in your catalog here, that practice folder where my data is downloaded is going to pop right up. So that putting your project in the same place as your data is going to help you kind of skip extra steps and make your data really easy to access. If you do have files elsewhere that you need to access and it's not coming up in that home folder, you can right-click folders, hit add folder connection, and then go to wherever your data is that you need to access. So say you wanted to use like your city maintained data here. You can select that folder. Could even select the data folder here. And now you have that one listed. And you can access all of those shape files too. Again, be careful if you're doing this because you want to have everything together when you export it. So now you need to export that lab1 folder too, where this data is located if you're exporting this map. So you always want to make sure ArcMap knows where your data is coming from and that it's all staying together with the map file. And if you want to remove a folder connection, you can just right-click, hit remove. Maybelline, yeah, it's okay to use an external drive to save everything. Just make sure your map files are also going on that external drive. So don't mix and match folder locations. Like if your data is on that external drive, your map should also be on that external drive.
I had a question.
Yeah.
So when I did my data for lab 3, I wasn't able to find how to download the GIS that I was finding. So I went on the catalog in that portal and searched for the layer. Like, is that okay? Do I have to like save all the information? And how do I do it from that?
I don't think I know exactly what you mean. Where you were searching for like
So
a
if you
shape
go
file?
on the right of project where it says portal in the catalog pane. Sorry.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Oh, wait, go back to the map. Sorry. In the catalog pane.
Oh, over here. Oh, sorry.
Oh. Sorry. And that's like how I searched for my data. Like, do I have to somehow save that data from that layer to a folder?
Not necessarily. ArcGIS Online is a little different. It's all sort of saved and accessed through the internet. Where that can become a problem is if you're trying to work on your map without an internet connection, then you won't be able to access it. So in that case, it might be helpful to import things into like a geodatabase or a folder on your own computer and have it downloaded.
Okay.
But if you're always working with an internet connection and can access them online that way, that also works.
Okay.
I generally prefer to have things downloaded to my computer just to have things organized to my liking and make sure nothing gets lost. But Dr. Perroy could probably speak to that more too. I haven't worked a ton with ArcGIS Online, honestly. So any questions, other questions so far on organizing data, making folder connections, any of that stuff? Okay. Oh, Maybelline said some of the websites I found only have data available online. Yeah, so that is the case sometimes, especially with ArcGIS Online. Some of those layers are only available through ArcGIS Online. So either accessing it through that webpage or through ArcGIS Pro. I would recommend trying, if you do want downloadable layers, just do a little more searching. You could even like copy paste the file name and maybe find a downloadable layer elsewhere. You can usually find layers you can download for just about anything. It might just take a little more searching. And feel free to email me if you ever need help finding those. All right, so one more really useful tool here, which you guys kind of practiced with in lab 3, is building a geodatabase. And that's a really great way to take files from all different locations and have them in this one really organized place. And there's a couple ways to import files into a geodatabase. One way is to right-click and hit import. And you can choose either just one feature class, so if you just want to import one shapefile, or feature classes. So say I want to import a few from my data folder here. It's going to pull up, whoops, that geoprocessing tool that you used in lab 3. And that will let you select your data one at a time. And you can import whatever shapefiles you want in your geodatabase. If you are working out of a geodatabase, you want to only work out of the geodatabase. And I'll show you why. Sorry. And then just make sure it's going to the right one. So output geodatabase should be practice.gbd. Let it do its thing. Then you can exit out of that. You might need to refresh your geodatabase. But once you do that, oh, no, it's mad at me. Let's see, so something went wrong there. Not actually sure what, but let's try again. You've got reserves. And I'll double check here that it's actually going to the geodatabase I want it to go to. Which is this one. And I'll try this again. Okay, there we go. So I don't know why it was just being glitchy, but I just refreshed the whole folder instead of just the geodatabase, and that seemed to work to get my new shapefiles to show up. So now they're all compressed into this geodatabase and can be accessed from there. What you want to be careful of is, say, I was working with these two layers already, and then I realized, oh, wait, I'm working with a lot of data here. Like I should make a geodatabase and put my data in there. So I do that. And then I drag a few layers from here. In some cases, this might not be a problem. Like if I was exporting my entire practice folder, all my data is going to be included. But if I was pulling data from other locations, then I could be missing things without realizing it. So a good way to double check where your data is coming from and make sure it's all coming from the same place. In this case, I want it all coming from my geodatabase, is by going to list by data source in the table of contents. And it'll show you where your files are being pulled from. So in this case, I see these three are coming from my geodatabase, which is great. These two I pulled from the wrong folder. So I'm going to remove those two. And I need to import those into my geodatabase. But once I do that, then I would want to drag them out from there. So this list by data source is a really good thing to check before you export your data. And that way you can make sure all of your files, all of your associated data files are being exported with your map. So your map document and your data files are separate, and you're sort of telling GIS where to look for them, how to find them, and then adding additional things to it when you build your map.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, of
And
course.
sorry if it is kind of dumb, but since we did just
No
start
such thing.
working with but since we did just start working with feature classes, you know, I had previously, like in lab 2 or something, I'd imported 2 individual shape files into my map, and I was working with those with no problem. But by creating a feature class, are we doing something separate from just directly importing those shape files onto our map? Is this like, I guess, what's the distinction between creating a feature class or a geodatabase file versus just importing multiple shape files into our map?
So a geodatabase is sort of like a, how do I describe it? It's like a special way to organize your data. It has like some added features to it, and you can like assign certain attributes to everything in the geodatabase. So it can become really useful organizationally. The files themselves are the same. It's more just how you organize them and what you're able to do with them. And so like a feature class is a layer that exists within a geodatabase and that you're able to modify as part of that geodatabase. And so it sort of creates a set rather than just individual shape files. You can also make feature data sets. And that's sort of, you can make multiple of those within one geodatabase. So if you're working on several projects, but you want all of that data contained in one place, you can make feature data sets to keep, like, say you have one feature data set for one map, another feature data set for another map, but they're related. So you want them in the same place, but they contain different shape files that are associated with those different maps. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, totally. And that makes a lot of sense because that's where when I just plug my shape files directly onto my previous map, I think that in doing lab 3, I realized that there's more cohesion and it's just easier to manage things when you create a geodatabase file with multiple shape files inside of it. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so one more thing. As far as troubleshooting, I'm going to exit out of this. And I'm going to show you what to do if a pathway to a data file is broken. So that can happen if your map and your data are located in separate spots and GIS can't figure out where your data is that you're trying to pull from. So say, for example, I took my broadband data, which is located in this geodatabase, and I moved it over to this folder, which I think I already did, but. So now it's existing over there. Now I try to open up my broadband project file. We let ArcGIS load for a while. And ArcGIS is very upset with me. It's kind of being subtle about how upset it is, but you can see these exclamation points in the table of contents. You don't want those. That's basically ArcGIS telling you, I don't know where this data is, and I have no idea what you're trying to tell me to do. So there is a very easy fix to this, thankfully. But you do need to know where the files are located. So I have seen instances where folks have things saved in different locations and they open their map, they're getting these errors and they don't know where their data is. And that's when it becomes a problem. So you do want to make sure you're saving everything to a location that you will know to come back to. You don't want to be saving things all over the place. So in this case, there's a couple ways to resolve this. For one, you can right-click the layer that it's upset about, hit Properties, and then go to Source. And you'll notice right now, it's not giving me any information about the file, which is pretty indicative that it has no spatial reference right now. It's just, it knows the file exists, but it doesn't know anything about it. So I'm going to hit Set Data Source and browse to where this shapefile is located. So I think because I did this earlier, it kind of already knows. But I go find my geodatabase that I moved over there, select the shapefile. And now you can see it's figured out all of the information about the shapefile, which is a great sign. It knows that it's a point file, and it has all the spatial reference information as well. So I can hit OK. And now the exclamation point's gone away. It shows up on my map. ArcGIS knows where that file is now. I'm going to do the same thing for counties. So Properties, Set Data Source. It's going to take me right to that geodatabase since it remembered I went there last time. I'm going to hit Counties. And now it knows where that file is too. There's also a faster way to do this. If you know that all of your data is coming from the same location, you can just click that exclamation point, select the shapefile from the geodatabase. And now it's telling ArcGIS, okay, since this file came from that location, we're going to assume all the other files came from that location too. And so now all of these no longer have exclamation points next to them because ArcGIS knows where they are. So this is anytime you're doing an assignment and you're kind of having weird issues where you're like, I'm exactly following what's happening in the book, but this option isn't showing up for me. I'm not able to symbolize my layer or anything like that. Check for those exclamation points in your table of contents. And you can also check the source layer and the properties and make sure that it's coming from the right spot. So those are the main things I had for you guys. Do you have any questions on anything? Want to see anything again? Have other troubleshooting issues that you ran into? Anything you wanted to talk about that I didn't go over today? Seeing no's?
No, I'm good. Thank you. I'm still just working through lab 3, but this was helpful. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, feel free to
Thank you
reach
so
out.
much, Emma.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming. I hope this was helpful. And Maybelline, if you need any help finding layers for certain things, feel free to shoot me an email and I can try to help you find stuff.
Mahalo, Emma.
Yep. Take care, guys.